In this video, we'll talk about inner function and also how can return a function. I'm not saying returning a value from a function. I'm saying how do you return a function, and let's see that in this video. So let's create a new file, and I'm going to say this as inner.py. Nothing very fancy. And here, let's create a function. So we can say def, and let's say it is outer. So that's my outer function. And let's create a inner function. Now, as a name suggests, inner function means a function inside another function. Something like this. So we got this outer function. And in fact, before we talk about inner function, let me print something here. And I will say in outer function. And then of course, you have to call it, otherwise this will not work. I mean, it will work, but it will not print it. So let's go back here, and I don't know why I said clear. That's a muscle memory, I think, now. So inner.py, and you can see it says in outer function. Now after this, I'm going to create a inner function. So let's say def inner, and okay, that's an inner function now. And here also let's print something because we love printing things in inner function. So we got a statement inside the outer function. We got a statement inside the inner function. Now in the outer function, we got two parts. One is this statement and one is this function definition. Okay. Now if I run this, what will be the output? Think about this in your mind, and I'm going to run this now. Let's run this. And it says in outer function. Okay, why it's not calling, or it is not printing in inner function? It's because we are not calling it, right? Nowhere we are calling inner. And if you observe the brightness of the text, outer is a bit bright, inner is a bit fade, it's because we are not calling it. So ID talks to you by saying, hey, what are you doing? You're not calling it. You should call it. Now from where we are going to call it? So we are calling outer from outside. Can we call inner from the outside? Let's try. So if I try to call inner from here, your ID will say, inner is not defined because it's not able to find where inner is. And inner is hiding here inside the outer function. Okay, so that means you can't simply call the function which belongs to some other function directly. And even if you run this, it will give you the same thing. It will say name inner is not defined. Did you mean iter? Okay, you're not that smart, but thanks for guessing, but that's not I was planning to do. I want to call inner itself. So we can't call inner from here, but we can call inner from a scope inside outer, because outer knows about inner, right? So we can say inner and we can do it from here. Let's try now. Let's run this, and you can see it says in outer function and in inner function. So after executing this, we are executing inner, which is calling this function inner, and it is printing in inner function. Our job is done. Okay, this is something you can do. What if I want to call inner from outside? Can we do it? Let's try. In fact, we have tried that before, but this is not working. So this thing is not working. But can we do this? What if the outer returns a function? See, normally when you say outer, outer can return things to you, right? It can return objects, normal values. But can we return a function? Let's try. I will say return inner. I'm not going to call it because when you say round brackets, I will just comment this part. I don't want to call inner there now. But when you say return inner and when you call it, it will basically execute the inner function. Inner function is not returning anything, right? So you can't return stuff like that. Let me try. There's something crazy which we typed. Okay, so you can see it is calling it, but we are not accepting it. So let's accept that in, let's say, something. And I'm not sure what this something is. I'm going to print this something to see what it prints. I'm curious now. Run, and it says none. Okay, that rhymed, not intentionally. So what we are doing is we are calling inner here, which is calling this inner, which is not returning anything. So it is none, and it returns none from here. But if you return, this was not something I wanted to do, but since we are curious, and yeah, it returns 5. But I don't want to do all those things. I just wanted to return the function as it is. And if you want to return a function, you don't put the round brackets. You simply say inner. In fact, the same thing we have discussed in the higher order function. We are not returning there, but we are passing, right? So when you passed the square, we are not mentioning round brackets there. We are mentioning the function name. Same way, we have to return with a function name, no round brackets there. And now let's see what that something represents. Now that something represents a function which belongs to the outer function, and the function name is inner. Okay, so inner belongs to outer, that's what it's saying. Okay, so that means If I say something and if I give a round brackets, we are calling a something function, but something function does not exist. Still, it calls the inner function is because we are returning an inner function which is getting assigned to something. So when you're calling something, you're actually calling inner function. Let me repeat, it might be confusing if you're doing it for the first time, and please type this code. Don't trust me, write this code and see how it works. Then it will make much more sense. So basically, when you return inner from outer, it returns a function. Now that function goes to something. Now something also becomes a function. And when you call something, it basically calls the inner definition, right? Which says in inner function, if that makes sense. Okay, but can you pass a value? So let's say if I want to pass a value, let's say 5 here, then of course you have to accept it here because ultimately something is calling inner. So when you call something, it is calling inner. So we have to accept that here. And then if you want, you can also print it. So let's try and it works. You can see it says in inner function 5. So that's inner function for you. Now, why we are talking about inner function? Normally, we don't use this that much in the actual project. Sometimes we use it when you want to restrict a particular function for a function. So let's say inner, I'm restricting it only for the outer function. So when someone wants to use outer need to do some processing, and that's where you need a function inside. That makes sense. We are going to talk about decorators as well, and this is used in decorators, and that's why we are going in that flow now. And yeah, that's how we use inner function. So we have talked about two things. How do you define inner function and how do you return a function? And it's not like you can only return the inner function. You can return any function which you want. And I think we have done that in the higher order function. Let me just see. We are not doing it here, but you got the point. So that's it from this video. See you in the next part.